David Lammy was on Nick Ferrari's show, and Nick Ferrari asked him about migration and how it was all going. And Lammy then launched into a minute and a half of absolute tripe. It's hard to put into words the amount of tripe that David Lammy managed to fit into such a short space of time.
No progress has been made, Foreign Secretary.
Oh, no, Nick. Look, what have we done in the last year? I've sent 35,000 people back. That's an increase of 13%. These are people who shouldn't be here. We said we'd speed up processing. It's got up by 116%. It's faster than it was before.
So far, 23,000
we've got a new deal.
Here,
we've got a new deal with France.
Yes.
We've got a new deal with Germany. They've got to pass some legislation over the next few months. But effectively, we've got a new deal that means that they can go after people illegally smuggling into the UK. So we are acting. We've only been in office a year. No one thinks that you fix this overnight. But are we taking the right steps?
This year than before.
Am I, as Foreign Secretary, taking the right steps? I think we are.
But why are more people arriving? There's a 50% increase in those making the crossing, Foreign Secretary.
Well, you'll also know that the truth is that 3.6% of the global population are migrants. Food insecurity, climate change, conflict are driving that. The total number now exceeds 122 million people across the planet. Now, we've got to do a lot in the UK to protect our borders, and that is what we're doing. We certainly can't have the UK being seen as a soft touch, and that's why I'm going after the men in suits that prey on these people, that commit fraud, that commit deception. Sometimes they're not just smuggling people, they're smuggling guns and drugs as well. We're going after them with our sanctions regime that comes from the Foreign Office.
Now, just to state the obvious from the beginning here, when David Lammy said, "I've sent people back," that was a lie. He's the Foreign Secretary. He's not part of the Home Office, which does the deportations. He's the Foreign Secretary. He deals with foreign matters, not home deportations. So that's just a lie. It's not part of his remit. In addition, the number of 35,000 is the number of people that have previously migrated here that have left, most of them of their own accord. So this number that the government throws out is absolute rubbish. There's always people that are leaving the country, particularly people that just arrive here as well. Some people just get here and they don't like it. Some people have to leave, etc. But to say I've deported these many people is just a lie. Another lie that he said, we've made deals with France and Germany to return people. There's been no deals made for that. There's a pilot scheme being introduced at some point in the future, but there hasn't been one person exchange, and it's a one in, one out anyway, even if the scheme were to get going. And as for Mr. Lammy saying nobody expects us to be able to solve this overnight, well, actually, I expect them to solve this overnight because this is a problem that could be solved overnight. We don't have to listen to everything that the ECHR tells us. Everyone always says that, we should leave the ECHR and move on our way. But the reality of that is that there's many countries just kind of don't pay attention to them as they see fit. Nobody follows every tenet of the ECHR apart from the United Kingdom because we have a human rights lawyer who is running the country. And as his friends like to say, Keir Starmer likes to lean into complexity when he's talking about legal matters. Oh, well, thanks for that. We feel truly honoured, Mr. Starmer. And then Lammy, I think, took a strange turn and veered off violently to a strange place when he said, we're going after the men in suits. Which men in suits are you talking about, Mr. Lammy? The people smugglers are gangsters. They're not men in suits. This type of narrative was the narrative used by Black Lives Matter when they were talking about how black people have been disenfranchised and oppressed over many, many decades by the men in suits. And David Lammy is attempting to introduce that into the public discourse, but it's not going to work. The reason why it's not going to work is quite straightforward. There's no men in suits. These are European gangsters that are human trafficking people. And yes, there'll be a few guns somewhere, I would imagine, and there's going to be a few bags of drugs as well thrown in, just for good measure at some point as well. Because if you're making continual trips over the channel, then people get to learn things about how to transport things from France to England. And this is, again, another problem with allowing this type of behaviour to propagate itself over time, in that once you give a gangster or a criminal gang a foot in the door, then they tend to exploit all weaknesses in a system unless you stamp it out 100%. And the final thing, the 3.6% of global population, that again, a new narrative that David Lammy is attempting to introduce into the discourse. And I think this one is going to gain some traction because it's wrapped up with our responsibility and climate change and global issues and all of that full ball of wax. What the Labour Party are going to be attempting to do is they're going to attempt to justify our percentage of migration, given the 3.6% that David Lammy has pulled out of his rear end there, to be honest. There's no official figure of the amount of global migrants. This is all approximations. But Mr. Lammy there, just throwing that out, you can see where all this is going to go. David Lammy is a globalist. He doesn't see national borders. And so when he's talking about global figures, global migration, global population, global movements of people. Little recognising that that type of World Economic Forum mindset is not what the people of this country want to hear. Every time David Lammy stands up and talks to the British people, he makes the Labour Party look stupid. Because they are stupid. It's not Britain's responsibility to worry about the global migration crisis or climate change happening around the world or anything of that nature. The British people can decide what they wish to do with their own borders. And until Labour get on board with that, they're going to be at loggerheads with the wants and the wishes and the needs of the people of Great Britain. It's as simple as that. Thanks very much for your time.